You should probably know that as I'm editing this, I'm rewatching the movies all over again. Hello there, fellow bookish beings. It's Cheska, and today, after 2 months of reading, I finally finished The Fellowship of the Ring, which honestly feels a little surreal to say, because for years, Tolkien has intimidated me. I grew up seeing the books lined up on my auntie's shelves. These were one of her favorite books. But of all of the books that I've borrowed from her, LOTR has never been one of them. It wasn't the size that I was scared of particularly. There are plenty of books longer than The Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, shout out to my middle March reading blog. It's that I've been really scared of its depth. People talk about Tolkien's work the way people talk about mountains, not books. You don't simply read Tolkien, you conquer Tolkien. Few works have shaped modern fantasy as profoundly as The Lord of the Rings. Written by our beloved J.R.R. Tolkien and published between 1954 and 1955, the novel helped establish the conventions of modern high fantasy. Expansive worlds, detailed histories, even languages of their own, epic quests, and the struggle between good and evil. Tolkien inspired generations of writers and creators such as George R.R. Martin, J.K. Rowling, George Lucas, and countless others. And after spending all of these 2 months with only this book, I can finally say that yes, it was challenging, but not in the way I expected. When I started reading it, I assumed the difficult part would be the language. After all, Tolkien was a professor of Anglo-Saxon at Oxford. He loved languages so much that he actually invented entire languages before he wrote the story itself. In many ways, Middle-earth exists because Tolkien wanted somewhere for those languages to live. Isn't that just so magical? But surprisingly, it wasn't the language or his writing style that slowed me down. The thing that challenged me the most was the pacing. The beginning of the book, especially, felt much slower than I expected. I was really expecting something high action from the very beginning because that's how the films were made. For example, in the movie, once Gandalf discovered the truth about the ring, everything felt urgent. Frodo had to leave the Shire immediately. But in the book, not exactly. Frodo received this earth-shattering responsibility at the age of 33 and only left the Shire at the age of 50. So there was a 17-year gap where he stayed in the Shire and planned and debated with himself if this ring really was a threat. I kept thinking, Frodo, are we leaving or not? When are we leaving? But as I kept reading, I started appreciating that slowness in the beginning because real departures are rarely dramatic. I knew, for example, when I moved to France, the moment that I realized that, yes, it's happening, I didn't leave the next day. It all began with, well, packing my things, obviously. Then there were also a lot of uncertainties. I definitely doubted myself if this was the right decision to make. And so Tolkien allowed us to live in that transition. After all, great journeys need greater preparations. One thing I absolutely did not expect was how much I would enjoy Tom Bombadil. If you've only seen the films, you probably have no idea who I'm talking about. Tom Bombadil is one of the strangest characters I've encountered in fantasy. He was whimsical, so funny, mysterious, and he just sings all the time. So I really loved his character. And so this naturally led me into several Reddit rabbit holes, looking for who exactly is Tom Bombadil, why is he seemingly unaffected by the ring, how powerful is he really? Is he one of the Valor, one of the old gods of Middle Earth? Because many readers have wondered whether he is a Vala, a Maya like Gandalf or Sauron, a nature spirit, an embodiment of Arda or the world itself, or something even older. And apparently, Tolkien never revealed a concrete identity. He was sort of like the love to the indifference of the ring, was how I saw it. Let me know in the comments down below if you have thoughts about Tom Bombadil. Going back to Tolkien, people say that he is the father of modern fantasy. He is the forefather of high fantasy. And after reading this book, I understood why. Middle Earth did not feel invented, it felt discovered. Every place felt like it has existed for centuries before the story began. Every song hinted at another story, every ruin feels historic, and every name felt meaningful. You can really feel Tolkien's love for language, mythology, folklore, and literature on every page, especially on the poems. It's not world building just to simply provide readers another escape. The world itself is part of the story. So, after 2 months, where does that leave me? I gave The Fellowship of the Ring 4 stars. Now, why 4 and not 5? Well, it's because I loved reading the book, the experience of the world building, more than loving the book itself. I hope it makes sense to somebody out there, this difference. I loved spending time in Middle Earth. I loved the imagination, the characters, getting lost in the lore. But there were still sections where the pacing really tested my patience. But that's okay. Not every book we love needs to be a perfect 5-star experience. Because, at least to me, this book gave me something more than a 5-star experience. It gave me perspective. And also, now that I finished the first book, I really appreciate the films even more. So if you've been intimidated by Tolkien, consider this your sign. You don't need to be a fantasy expert. You don't need to understand every reference, every poem, every piece of lore in the story. You simply need curiosity and a little patience. After all, every journey begins with leaving the Shire, leaving your version of the Shire. Thank you so much for watching, fellow bookish beings, and if you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe so we can be bookish together. And I'll see you in the next book. One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them.